What's up, dude?
What's up?
What you got there? Some herbs and spices?
I have some Dean Jacobs bread dipping seasonings.
Whoa.
That I always...
You dip your bread in that?
I dip my bread in that. I always take it in the studio. I make gold.
I make gold.
And then I eat the bread with this seasoning stuff.
I break bread with the musicians that I record with. So I'm ready to season the bread.
That's very Christ-like.
It's a metaphor. We're going to season the bread and make a song. Yeah. So, hey, Chris, how are you?
I am good, real good.
Good.
Yeah.
Well, welcome to the local pickup, you and all the millions of fan out there.
Millions of fan. He's doing this. The one fan's going.
He's got a breathing issue.
He's furious. He just watches us and is like.
So today we have a special treat. This is a Slingerland guitar. This is a 1930s archtop.
Wow.
So it was made in the 1930s, dude. That's a long time ago. This
bread seasoning is much newer, I think.
We think.
I hope.
We can't read the date. I don't have my glasses on. This is a wooden guitar. It's a solid wood. It's an archtop. It's got a wooden bridge that's adjustable. The little screws here raise it up and down. It's got this nice tailpiece on it. Everything, as far as we know, is original. Pick guard. It's got a killer headstock that Slingerland was famous for. It's called a Songster. It's got these ebony buttons here, and it plays great, man. We've had our luthier work on it a lot, and he's got the action down to where it's like a contemporary guitar. It's just amazing.
We call him Songster.
We call him, that's why we had him working on this one. But it's got that jazzy rhythm guitar and spades that like. And then it's there's no dead spots on the guitar. It just plays fantastic. But that's really a tribute to getting a guitar that's in pretty good shape and then doing a lot of work on it. You know, we sanded the took out some of these frets and did some leveling because there was some buzz in here that wouldn't allow us to get the action down. And that was pretty much all the work we did was kind of on the fretboard area. But we put back on the original frets and they play great. It hasn't been refretted. It could be.
Original frets?
Yeah. It could be refretted, but it's not. There's no dead spots or anything, so you really don't need to.
Those are the frets from the 30s?
Yeah.
Wow. That's crazy.
Yeah. It plays wonderfully well. I mean, you can play it like, you know, people would often play an acoustic, like. But you can play it like an electric. I write electric songs on it. Just plays great. It's got a great neck too, which you'll feel here in just a second. I'll let you take a look at it. I'll tell you some history of the Slingerland company.
Do it. Wow, yeah. Man,
yeah,
I'm always amazed. This repeatedly we've had on the local pickup guitars that are so old that I cannot believe when I hold them and play them, they don't feel that way at all.
Yeah.
I mean, I've definitely played acoustic guitars that weren't 20 years old that felt like, you know, an old piece of junk relic next to this thing.
Well, and it does speak to it that one's been, we found it in good condition and a lot of work's been done. You know, oftentimes you find a guitar like that that's on the lower end of old vintage guitars, and they're going to be, you know, high action, hard to play, need a neck reset, often need refret. Versus you find like the really high end old ones, like an old high end Gibson, it's often well taken care of because it was expensive to begin with.
People knew they needed to take care of it.
Yeah, right.
Yeah. Whereas Slingerland, I don't know that.
It was like they were mid range guitars when they made them.
Interesting. I can't help but notice we were just playing like Hummingbirds and the what was the other one?
J200.
J200, and it's like they're so different. This is a completely different universe.
It is. That being an archtop is what makes it, not not just its age.
Yeah, it's so warm.
Yeah, so it's got that woody quality that you'll hear with the archtop because there's no sound hole right here. Instead, it's bouncing off the wood.
Yeah.
And that was trying to get the guitar to project mid-range tone so it could cut through a band. Mm-hmm. That was the purpose of an archtop. It's like you play it with a jazz band and you can hear it because it's right in the pocket where you can. It's like it's been EQ'd into this little space, and you can hear it that way.
Yeah, it definitely. It's again. Big difference between this and those others we're playing is that that's so obviously when you finger pick it's very different no matter what, but this is very very vastly different from I'm not even strumming, I'm just
That's that banjo quality, like
yeah.
It's like an old time, has an old time.
Yeah, sound. It definitely has a folky.
Yeah. So I think you can do jazz nice,
I can't do jazz.
I know, I can't really do that. I can't even fake it.
I know this thing.
We need to be able. Yeah.
Is that even jazz?
Yeah, I guess. That's the kind of jazz I can play, that rhythmic. But
that chord, this guy.
The
that
notey, the notey jazz I can't really do.
Oh no, I can't do notey jazz.
Yeah.
Don't ask me to put notes in there. It ain't happening.
But it does the smooth notey jazz stuff, and it does the real mid kind of choppy thing well. It does the old time picking well, which you were just doing, and you can just kind of play it like a normal acoustic guitar, but it does sound different. I mean, it doesn't have that sound hole. It doesn't have. We were talking about when we were talking about those other guitars. A guitar usually fills up the whole spectrum, which is why it's so great to play with just singing over a guitar, because it's got bass and it's got highs but this just kind of fits more into a smaller area. It's not filling up. There's not big bass and there's not big brights. It's just kind of in that mid.
That's interesting. Area. Yeah. It definitely that is completely where this guitar lives.
And all archtops are that way. I mean, they would vary among them, of course, but that's the kind of the role of an archtop. And so man, it's an interesting story about Slingerland and these guitars. It's funny how people's like personal drama has such an impact on history. I mean, I know when I was learning like European history, it was like a king would get upset that he got disrespected at a party by another king, and they would go to war for like 70 years.
Yeah, that's a heck of a You know what? I'm having a war.
Yeah. It's like Jerry Seinfeld.
Yeah. I don't like the way that guy talked to me.
Or Jerry, what's his name? Rest in peace.
Oh, his dad? Jerry Stiller.
Yeah. God, he was awesome in that. But anyway, so Slingerland was making. The guy was given ukulele lessons in Chicago, and he started importing ukuleles from Germany to sell them to his students. Selling like crazy. He hired a luthier, was working out of his garage to make them. Couldn't keep up with selling like crazy. Started getting into making banjos. Well, banjo is like a drum head, right? You got to have the skin for the drum head, and it's got to be pulled taut, and it's like making a snare drum basically. And so there was a big banjo craze in the 20s. We talked a lot about that. Everybody thought, the banjo's never going away. It's the primary instrument in America. But the guitar came in when it got steel strings and replaced the banjo as the primary folk instrument, blues instrument, went into the jazz clubs. It was everywhere. And really the 1900s is the century of the guitar. And since that's the American century too, that's why the guitar is so synonymous with America. Because it takes over the banjo as the folk instrument, it becomes electrified so you can hear it in jazz, and then here comes rock and roll, and it just becomes the primary instrument for the rest of the century. And so, I mean, not to down on, of course, the beautiful instruments of a mandolin and a banjo, but they like have a role. It's like playing lead guitar by yourself. If you solo alone all the time, it's kind of boring.
I mean, I'd argue that it's just your preference, and I think there are people out there that the idea that you could get bored playing a banjo on its own is ridiculous. It's just. I just think the guitar is just a more broadly fun instrument that way. The way that drums are just like, you cannot fail that. You can't, like, you're always gonna have fun when you play drums,
Right,
no matter what.
exactly.
It's just like the funnest instrument.
So drums is. I'm glad you brought up drums. So Slingerland, is known as a drum making company. That's what they're famous for. They made like Buddy Rich in the '60s. Some played Slingerlands and all that. So, and this gets back to my personal drama story. So they're start making banjos, and they're like the number one banjo maker in the country. Well, because of the banjo craze, everybody's wanting to get in on that. And Ludwig, who's a drum maker, Mr. Ludwig. This is back when every company that we know of was still run by the guy who started it and has the last name of the
And a mustache.
yeah, and a cigar and
And that suit with the collar that's all like, I don't know what that's called.
So anyway, he starts responding to government military bids to make banjos. Well, Slingerland finds out about it.
I'm sorry, what?
So the government wanting banjos for
For the military.
For the military. They're like, we will get these bad guys. They won't be able to stand this noise.
I was just like, when we hit them over the head with this banjo, and they go, like, we're gonna win this war, suckers.
No, it's like, around the campsite, I guess.
Oh, yeah, for morale.
Yeah, right.
Always look to the band. I would say that's a good idea.
Yeah, absolutely. So Slingerland finds out about it. He calls up Mr. Ludwig, and he's like, hey, how about you don't make banjos and I won't make drums, and we'll stay out of each other's business. Mr. Ludwig's like, that's ridiculous. I'll make whatever I want. And
Yeah.
throws a cigar.
And he said, kiss my grits.
This is in Chicago, though.
But yeah, and that one was invented in Chicago by Mr. Ludwig.
Chicagan grits.
Chicagan. Kiss my Chicagan grits.
So Mr. Ludwig starts making banjos. Because again, he's got the ability to make snare drums. They're already competing over like tanning
Salons.
tanning salons, but like skins for banjo heads and drum heads and whatever. So Slingerland gets off the phone. It's like, oh, I'm gonna make the hell out of some drums. Like,
damn, dude.
Yeah, it's like, forget that dude. So he becomes the biggest drum maker in the United States. Like, biggest family-owned drum maker in the United States.
Never should have made that call.
Despite that other guy.
He never should have made that call, man.
So Ludwig tries to go into banjos and spends a ton of money trying to make banjos. Slingerland, out of spite, starts making drums, out of spite. And then the banjo craze tanks. So Ludwig ends up losing his behind on trying to form a banjo company when banjo sales tank.
Wow.
Slingerland, unbeknownst to him, found his way from keeping his whole company from collapsing when banjos went, because he had transitioned into drums by then anyway. So banjo sales collapsed. Now he's a drum maker, so he's okay.
Wow.
So his spite saved him, is what happened.
Yeah, that's,
Yeah.
I guess there's a life lesson there. Sometimes if you
Be
act
spiteful.
out of just pure hate for someone,
It will work out.
It's gonna be very lucrative, and you're gonna find true happiness.
This one's for the kids.
Yeah.
So his spite led him to making drums. He then became the biggest family-owned drum-making company in the United States.
That's crazy.
Yeah, it was Slingerland, Ludwig, and Leedy. And they, in between all that, while they were making ukuleles and then banjos and then drums, as just a side project, they made some guitars. Some people say they didn't actually make them, that would have been made by Harmony.
That they went out in the woods and found them.
Behind Jerry's shed.
Yeah, but some people say they found them behind Jerry's shed.
But there are photos at the Slingerland manufacturer of like pieces of guitars, of guitar molds, of guitars that haven't been finished yet and things. So they were definitely making guitars. Now, whether they also were buying them from Harmony and Maybell and branding them, I'm not sure. But this one doesn't feel to me like a Harmony. I don't know where it was made, obviously, but they only made them in the late 20s and through the 30s. So for about 12 years maybe, they made guitars, and that's it. So you don't find many of them. And they actually made, everybody's got their claim on making the first electric guitar, right? You know how we talked about it. Like Les Paul made the first electric guitar. Well, not really. Rickenbacker made an electric guitar that was the frying pan. It was more like a Hawaiian guitar.
Spanish.
Well, it was actually Slingerland that made, after the frying pan, they made the first Spanish style solid body electric guitar.
Oh, okay.
It was years before Les Paul, like 4 or 5 years before Les Paul created his thing. But they just made a couple of them. They couldn't mass produce them. They weren't really into guitars anyway. Slingerland was fuming about drums, about kicking things in his office about Mr. Ludwig. And so they transitioned into drums. They just bailed on the whole project. And the war happened, and it was just like it never materialized.
Yeah.
And then Les Paul had his idea on making a solid body guitar, showed it to Gibson. It sat there for a few years. Gibson finally made it, and then Fender was actually the first company to commercially produce the solid body electric guitar with the Telecaster. But they do have the claim on the first solid body Spanish style electric guitar, and they were making these archtops for, again, like maybe 10 years, and that's it. And so if you can find one, man, there's not many of them out there.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah.
And so in the, I don't know, this wear here, you think it's from a pick or is that from a thumb for?
It might be a thumb. I don't know. It could be either one.
There's like a red hue in there.
There is, and I'm not sure where that came from. It could have been something, like somebody could have spilled Kool-Aid on it.
That's probably what it was. Yeah. Or it belonged to Satan.
It could have been Satan's guitar.
Like a cartoon Satan who's just wearing red stuff on his mic.
That could be blood. It could be
the blood of Satan's victims. Wait, this might be like the
satanic guitar.
This might be a satanic guitar. Wait,
that's not good.
No.
Okay, so yeah, it's pretty cool. It's got a cool sound. Mind if I play it a little bit?
I don't.
So as you were kind of demonstrating that old style picking, I'm not much of a jazzy bluesy guitarist, but that was Star Wars.
What?
Oh my God, I just wrote Star Wars.
You guys, he just did a Star Wars live on YouTube.
Yeah, and y'all know the rest. I could play the rest, I'm just not gonna.
Yeah, he could just shred the rest of that Star Wars.
Star Wars.
Well, that's how you play it. That's the point.
Yeah. Good sound.
Good sound. Interesting. Cool guitar.
Yeah, crazy story. 1930s, man. It's crazy.
Yeah, that's crazy. I mean, it looks like the 30s, but it just plays so well.
Look, there's more of that red up here.
Yeah, I think it's something in the paint. I don't understand. I don't know what. I mean, God knows what in the 30s they were making.
Looks like there's a repair right there.
Yeah.
Yeah. Crazy cool, man. I love it, dude. It's really plays fantastic. It's a great guitar to have around. And that's it. That's the Slingerland Songster from the 1930s. Archtop acoustic guitar.
If you're out there in the audience and you know a lot of stuff about old guitars and you have any guess why this patched up area and this worn area here have red hues on them, wager a guess in the comments because I'm very curious. That's interesting. Finding up here, I'm just like, yeah, maybe some kids spilled Kool-Aid right there. But that there's two spots, I'm very curious. Put your internet brains to work.
This belonged to the Kool-Aid man.
Oh.
That could be it.
Probably is it. He probably sold it because it was difficult to play guitar like that.
His arms on the side of his big jar body. Okay, cool. All right, well, that's it. I guess we'll see you next time on the Local Pickup.